following is an Operation Podcast production.
I remember I used to argue with my dad.
I'm not going. He's like, you are going. He's like, you'll thank us someday. I'm like, I'll not. And I used to have so many arguments with him. He's like, you'll thank us one day. He used to always say that. And then after the Olympics, when I got back with the medal, we had a big party. And I got on stage and I was like, told the story. My dad used to say, you'll thank us one day. Well, I said, today's that day. And I got him on stage and I said, this medal here belongs to you, and I put it on his neck and presented him with that Olympic medal. And that's how he was right. As hard as it is for me to say, all right, you're right, I was wrong, he was right. I'm Tony Jeffries, Olympic Medalist Boxer. Now I teach millions of people from around the world at how to get better at boxing online. I'm here today on Live Through Love with Ruben, and we talk about how to love people when you're punching them in the face.
Hello everyone, welcome to Live Through Love. I'm your host Ruben Rojas, and thank you for tuning in. So Tony, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming in the studio.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
For the audience, who are you? What do you do? And
Yeah, I'm a former boxer. I was pretty high level. I won 7 national titles, a European gold medal. I went to the Olympics in 2008, got a bronze medal there. I was an undefeated professional. And then I got forced to retire in 2012 with hand injuries. Since then, I've focused my time and energy on boxing for fitness rather than boxing for fighting. Moved to Los Angeles from the north of England. Opened a gym with Kevin Watson, and in Santa Monica, opened another gym, doing an education program. And now, fast forward 10 years, I do YouTube, educate people online, how to get better at boxing, everything boxing on my YouTube channel. And I'm kind of doing that full time right now, which is great.
so you get to still do what you love in just different capacities, right? You were an active participant. You competed, you fought, you got injured, you found a way to continue doing what you love, and now you're training people how to...
Yeah, no, I'm educating people the sweet science of boxing. And, I did boxing from the age of 10 years old. I'm now 37, so, God, I feel really old. That's 27 years of boxing experience that I've got, and, being able to help people improve their lives through boxing without me having to get punched in the face anymore, because I don't want to get punched in the face ever again. It's great, and I absolutely love doing it.
No, that's amazing. But I do have a question. Sometimes I always think about it. I've done some UFC training, jiu-jitsu, and martial arts throughout my life, but I've never wanted to get hit in the face. And I know it's not you're trying to get hit in the face. It is part of a consequence. But do you ever think, like, what is it that makes me want to participate in this, be hit? What led you to loving the sport?
It is crazy. And I always remember when I was 10 years old, I got took to the boxing gym and I started sparring for the first time. And the guy punched me in the face for the first time. I just started crying. I started crying my eyes out, and I didn't want to do it. And then, I went back to the gym, and, you did it again, a little bit lighter sparring. And then from there, you kind of get, as crazy as this sounds, you get used to getting punched in the face. Like, for example, if you put a glove on now and you hit me in the head like that hard, it would be fine. But if you've not been punched in the face, I put a glove on and hit you in the head, you might be, oh, and you get a shock. You kind of get used to it. Obviously, you don't like it. It's something that you'll never really enjoy, but it's just all part of the sport.
So I guess the goal is get so good and so quick that if you get punched in the face, it was either a mistake or you weren't paying attention. Not as when you were previously, hey, yeah, you can hit me. Because there's some people that are like, just hit me, and you're waiting for your shot. You take your shot.
Yeah, they're a bit crazy. But the name of the game is to hit them and not be hit yourself. And when you master that, you kind of master boxing. Like a fighter like Floyd Mayweather, who was one of the best ever. You know, his defense was amazing. He could hit and not get hit. And if you can do that, you're winning.
Yeah, and then you have a career like that.
Exactly.
So what got you into the sport?
When I was 10 years old, like I said, my granddad took me to the gym. His son, my uncle, was a professional boxer. And then I got punched in the face a few times, didn't like it. I wanted to play outside with my friends, get up to no good. But my dad forced us to go. He was like, no, you're going. You're keeping off the streets. You're going to the gym. And I was like, I don't want to go to the gym. He said, well, if you don't go to the gym and do boxing, you're not going to play outside with your friends ever again. So I was like, oh. So I had to go. He dragged me there. And then I had my first fight. And I was so scared when I was 11. And I lost my first fight. And then I had to fight the guy again a few weeks later. Now I was even more scared because he just beat us. And I lost the fight again. And I wanted to quit. I wanted to give in. And my dad was like, no, you're continuing to go to the gym. And then I fought again a few weeks later, a different guy, and I beat him. And I was like, wow, this is a great feeling. Then I had another fight, won, and I was like, this is amazing. Went to the national championships, won the national title, got selected to fight for England. And I was like, well, I'm pretty good at this sport. And it kind of snowballed from there. So that's kind of how I got into it and how I stuck with it as well, because, you know, the best feeling in the world is winning a fight. And I kind of fell in love with that, and that's how I stuck with it.
So terrified, not wanting to do it, but because you wanted to go play and have fun with your friends, you said, okay, Dad, I'll appease you. Lost the fight. And I remember my first martial arts tournament. I was terrified. I don't want to get hit. We spar in class, whatever. Then you get hit. Then you land a point. You're like, oh, yeah, I landed a point. Then you get another point and you win a match. So I can relate with that feeling. And then there's a lesson of perseverance, though. But it's interesting because when we're really young, we don't realize the choices we make can lead us to the success. But you kept listening and you're like, okay, Dad, let me move forward. Yeah. And you didn't let 2 losses keep you from Olympic dreams and hopefulness and representing your country.
Yeah, that's it. It's so, the easiest thing in the world to do is quit. And if I quit back then, I wouldn't be sitting here right now in Santa Monica with you on this podcast. And my dad, he didn't know how I was going to turn out. He didn't know that I was going to have lots of success in boxing. He just wanted to keep me off the streets because he knew the other way that things could have went. Yeah. And because of that, you know, I am here right now, and I'm very grateful for that. I remember I used to argue with my dad all the time. I'm not going. He's like, you are going. He's like, you'll thank us someday. I'm like, I'll not. And I used to have so many arguments with him. He's like, you'll thank us one day. He used to always say that. And then after the Olympics, when I got back with the medal, we had a big party. And I got on stage and I was like, told the story. My dad used to say, you'll thank us one day. Well, I said, today's that day. And I got him on stage and I give him, I said, this medal here belongs to you. And I put it on his neck and, you know, presenting him with that Olympic medal. And that's how he was right. As hard as it is for me to say, all right, you're right, I was wrong. You know, he was right.
No, and it's hard to see that and be able to realize that and gift him that back. It was a
great feeling. It was a very good feeling to be able to do that.
So what does it feel like, you know, from boxing amateur level, boxing some tournaments, and then being selected to represent your country in the Olympics? Like, that's the biggest global stage there is when it comes to sport, a boxing or the different sports in the Olympics, something that's just ancient.
Yeah, well, when I was 16, I was the champion of England, and the people who, and then England boxing team got some funding, and they were like, we need to put this funding into getting coaches and putting a program together with the boxers who's around 15, 16, 17 years old, because in 8 years, they're going to peak at 23, 24 years old. And I was one of them boxers. I was 16 years old when they put this program together. So I went through the full 8 years. And in boxing, you've got to qualify to go to the Olympics. And in them 8 years, in Sydney in 2000 and in Athens in 2004, there was only 3 boxers out of all of Great Britain to qualify for them games. Only 3 boxers in 8 years. So it was a big task just to qualify for the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I'm doing this 8-year program. Will I even qualify for the Olympics? My qualifying tournament was in Chicago in 2007 in the World Championships. I fought the Netherlands champion. I beat him. I fought the Belarusian champion, who was very tough. I beat him. And then to qualify, I had to fight the American champion. He was the team captain of America, called Christopher Downs. In Chicago, in a stadium full of thousands of people, all chanting, USA, USA. And Christopher Downs had just beat the favourite of the tournament in my weight, and I had to fight him to qualify. And I did, and I fought him, and I qualified. And it was the best feeling ever, because I'd worked all my life. It felt like all my life from the age of 16. You know, now I was 23 years old, and it was just, unbelievable to qualify. And then obviously to go, it was the best feeling ever.
Mm-hmm. And what's the mindset? Because Olympics, an Olympic athlete in training, you're looking at something every 4 years. You know, if you're a football player or a basketball player, you're in season, you're off season, in season, off season, but something that's so long out. What's the mindset you have, or how do you stay motivated to keep training at that level across 4 years and then another 4 years?
If you think about it, if you're 16 years old and someone says you're going for the tournament that's 8 years away, that's never going to come. It's like a lifetime away.
Yeah.
Even when you're 16, 1 year is like miles away. So, it was the long-term goal, but in between them 8 years, there was so many short-term goals where I would be flying to Greece or India or America and fighting in tournaments representing my country. Mm-hmm. So in them 8 years, I had 56 fights representing my country where I would be flying around the world fighting different champions. And when you're working towards one tournament, you're kind of forgetting about the long-term goal. You're more working towards the short-term goal, even though these tournaments were to build you up and give you the experience for the long-term goal. You didn't even look past that. It might have been a European Championships that you were fighting in, a World Championships. You didn't look past that to the Olympics. You just focused on that thing. So the short-term goals helped you reach the long-term goals.
Now, was there any fear or doubt in the short term, right? You're playing a tournament, like, what if I get hurt here and that keeps me out from the end goal?
Yeah. I didn't really feel like, like that, but there was always self-doubt, like, if I don't win this tournament, what if I get took off the program? And then also there's other champions of England coming up who's fighting for this one spot that I had. So there was always fear, like, if I don't perform well, I'm going to lose my spot on the team. It wasn't guaranteed. That 8 years wasn't guaranteed. Throughout them 8 years, there was a lot of fighters come and went because people got replaced because they weren't performing. But I was one of the few fighters who stuck through the full 8 years and actually went to the Olympics. So you did have them self-doubts kicking in. What if this happens? What if that happens? And then obviously if you lose a fight, which I lost a few fights, your confidence gets dipped. I got hurt a few times where I got punched so hard, my legs went like jelly and I got concussed and I couldn't remember stuff for hours after, which was horrible, completely different story. But then the doubts start coming in your mind. Have I not got a very good punch resistance? Am I a little bit chinny? What if this happens again and I get knocked out? So that was real. That did happen often. But I mean, to be a boxer, you need a strong mindset, and you need a strong mindset to really get over that and have success.
Yeah, I can't imagine when it's so physical, and it's very lonely. It's just you in the ring, even though you have a team and everyone around you. So these conversations, like I have these conversations. I'm sure a lot of us has these conversations. And how do we start applying I like to call the athletic mindset? I believe that if you participated in athletics, you have another way of operating and being able to negotiate life and realize, like, you put in the work, you train hard, you get an outcome. and you know that you score points every time you get the outcome, and those points eventually lead to a win, and so on and so forth. So I'm sure that helps a lot.
Yeah, it definitely does. And you know, you never really want to think about losing. People see in boxing or all sports really, you always want to stay positive and think like, I'm going to win. But you know, you did think like, but what if I lose? And then when I did get hurt a few times, it was like, what if I get hurt? What if I get knocked out? And for me, that kind of made me a better fighter because I was more aware when I was in the ring. Some fighters, you know, they would think, I can never get hurt. I'm an absolute beast. Even if they do get hurt, I think every athlete is different in that way. I was had low confidence when I was fighting. And I believe that having low confidence helped us have success. Being scared and afraid helped me have the success in the ring.
And what lessons have you learned from boxing that you now apply to your life?
Oh, mate, you know, the work ethic that goes into boxing, being absolutely obsessed with the sport, obsessed with my opponents, just obsessed with being the very best you can actually be. When that got forced away from us and I got forced to retire with hand injuries, applying that same obsession into business, my business just went through the roof, you know. And if you're going to put the work in, being like now I'm obsessed with YouTube and growing the channel, and my channel is really taken off by transferring the work ethic that I put into boxing into something else that you love and enjoy doing. You know, you're going to just go one direction. You can't really go the other direction. So that's kind of, it's not a lesson. It's kind of, I do it without thinking about it, and it's worked. Where a lot of fighters or I guess former athletes struggle, even if they were a high performing athlete, they'll struggle to put that work ethic into something else. But if they did, just imagine how much success they have. Yeah. And I feel like I've done that, and it's really benefited us in my everyday life.
What do you think the difference is with how you applied that? Because I could see what you're saying. A lot of athletes, they retire, and it's like, well, now what?
Right.
And the mindset of thinking, oh, I'm going to be an athlete forever. And you're like, retired at 28.
Yeah.
It's a lot of life still left.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the thing with retiring through injuries, you never think that it is going to end. You think, oh, it's going to continue, and you don't really think past it so much. And I think, but once that did end, you know, there was a dark moment in my life where I didn't know what I was going to do. But then when I did find something that I enjoyed doing, which was teaching boxing for fitness, I just forgot about the fighting and got over that, and then just totally focused on this, and that's when it elevated. And you know, it was great.
So let's talk about that injury. So you injured your hands?
Yeah.
Both hands or just
both hands?
You injured both hands, and that was your moneymaker. That was everything.
Yeah.
What did that feel like? And what did you have to go through to start working through that process to heal physically, but it's also mentally?
Yeah, huge mentally. So yeah, I had a hole in one knuckle, a tear in one tendon on the other hand, on the other knuckle. And it didn't just happen from one fight or one punch. It was kind of throughout my full career. The problem was when I was young, I would punch really hard for my age, and I didn't really protect my hands or wrap my hands. I thought it was cool going to school and having big swollen knuckles and showing me friends, and I'd tell the teachers, oh, I can't write, look at the size of my knuckle, and they're like, wow, okay, you don't have to write in school today. So I thought that was cool, but you know, over the years, it really took effect, and it got worse and worse and worse to the point where I couldn't turn a key, I couldn't button my trousers, zip my top. So I had to go in for surgery after I had 10 professional fights, 106 fights, career fights. And yeah, it was, and then like, I was tried everything to rehab my hands. I did the PRP where they take blood from your bone marrow and inject that in. I did so much physiotherapy, ultrasound, all that, and it wasn't happening. And even now, you can see, like, I can't make a fist. This knuckle still sticks out. So when I punch, the first thing that happens, it hits that, this will swell up. So yeah, I tried everything. It didn't get better. I went through a dark moment. I started drinking. I was like, what am I going to do? I've got to retire now. Forced to retire, come to LA, start teaching boxing in a gym called Iron Gym in Santa Monica, and I was in like an underground basement, and I was getting like $10 a class or $20 for 5 classes or whatever, and I didn't care. It was like took my mind off what I was thinking about before that, which was I'm going to retire. What should I do now? People didn't know who I was there. Where back at home, people knew who I was. So it like kind of took us out of that and put us into a different environment, which helped, you know, the mental recovery process. The hands never got better, but mentally that was amazing for us doing that. And then after a couple of months there, me and Kevin, we opened our own thing. So it worked out well.
Yeah, so it took you out of being at home where everyone knows who you are. You represented the country, and there's probably all kinds of conversations, to coming in here, teaching classes for nothing, but then these people fell in love with you by how you taught them how to box.
Right.
And then you got to re-fall in love with everything and really not worry about your injury, because it was now about everything you've done for 27 years. Yeah,
and passing my knowledge on to people and helping change other people's lives, which I'd never done before. It was all about me. Like you said, it's a boxing's a sport when you've got a team, but it's kind of all about you. And now I'm giving people value, and I was like, this feels actually good for me, helping these other people. So I did that, and people, they fell in love with the teachings and the way that we did it. And then I focused on the business side and just giving people the best value possible. And that's when the business just went through the roof. And it was an easy transition, because now I'm not getting punched in the face anymore. Now I'm training people rather than having to put my body through all of the punishment that you put it through in a training camp, and then dieting and all that stuff. Now I can eat what I want, I can live how I want, and just help people. It was easy. Yeah. It was easy. Yeah.
Easy compared to that. And you don't have to worry about making weight.
Exactly. Don't have to worry about making weight, eat what I want in America, eating all this nice food. I did put weight on, a lot of weight. I've kind of lost it now. But yeah, it was great, and I enjoyed it. And it wasn't until like probably 2 years after I retired, when I started making a bit of money from it, I was like, retiring from boxing was the best thing that's probably ever happened to us, because now I've got a fresh start. I'm not getting punched in the head anymore. I start studying about brain health and learning all about that, and I'm like, it's dangerous. I don't want to get punched in the head ever again. So it was a good job that I did retire.
So I want to just talk a little bit about the violence of the sport, right? Like, I was a football player. That was my first love. I played a couple other sports too, but people always talk about like it's so violent. Men out there just hitting each other with helmets on, going after a brown ball, or some gloves and hitting each other in the faces. Would you say that boxing or any violent sport actually condones and glorifies violence, or would you define it as something completely different? Because there's competition. Like, this is competition. This is like men being men. How would you handle or describe that conversation?
I wouldn't see it's a part of violence like boxing. You know, obviously it's a violent sport. You're trying to knock the person out in front of you, but outside of the sport, I mean, you might have met boxers before that normally gentlemen, respectful people, and like 99.9% of fighters are that. So it's not going to hurt anyone outside of the sport, but when you're in that ring, it's very violent, and your goal is to knock out the other person. So it is a little bit crazy when you think about it that.
Yeah, and then always interesting, like I talk about love, and then sometimes like, oh, you're sitting here and glorifying this. I'm like, yeah, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about athleticism. We're talking about competition. We're talking about healthy, controlled environments. Yeah. I enjoyed boxing and enjoyed martial arts. I never wanted to get in a fight. I am not a fighter. Right. I'll run from a fight. I'll fight if I have to, and I'd rather talk my way out of things. Like, hey, let's have a conversation before anything happens, because the minute you start throwing punches, who knows what's going to happen? You didn't even realize what the conversation was.
Fighting is horrible. I've got some street fighting videos, tutorials on my YouTube, and I always say this is for the good guy. You know, I really believe everyone should learn how to throw a punch. hopefully you never need to use it. But if you do, because there's a lot of arseholes out there that might start a fight on you, you need to know how to defend yourself. So everyone should learn how to throw a punch because of that. But yeah, like you said, fighting's stupid. Be the bigger man. Walk away.
Yeah.
And I would like to think that I would do that. If I see red mist, I don't know what would happen. But the bigger man would always walk away in a fight.
Mm-hmm. Because I would say fighting's the easy choice if you really think about it, or choosing from fear. We're talking about street fights here. We're not talking about boxing now. Being the bigger man and choosing love, walking away, swallowing your pride, your ego, and all that. That's the harder choice.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what I'm trying to talk about and convey and have these conversations with people of like, it's so much easier to flick someone off and just go through that punch. It's so much harder to walk away or say, hey, let me give you a hug instead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you said someone was about to fight you, let's have a hug instead, I think they'll probably punch you straight in the face. Because they think you're taking the piss. But yeah, I think it kind of depends what sort of man you are. I think where it's like the fight or flight mode. Mm-hmm. If you've got the fight mode in you, then yeah, it's very hard to walk away from that. If you've got the flight mode, you probably run away, which is the best thing to do. I'm guessing you've got the fight mode in you, I've got the fight mode in this. So for us, it would be harder to walk away, to swallow your pride and to let your ego go and let this guy, feel like he's got the better of you. Mm-hmm. It would be very hard to do that. But it makes sense, because what could happen is you know how to throw a punch, I know how to throw a punch. I would hit you, you could fall, bang your head, you're dead. Mm-hmm. Or they know how to throw a punch, they hit us, bang our head, we've got kids, life will never be the same again. And that happened to a guy who I know in England, where I'm from, where he was out on a night out and he got hit off a bully and he fell, banged his head on the floor, and his life will never be the same again. It's never been the same for 20 years ago when it happened, and it was so sad. And it can happen to anyone. Obviously you never think it will happen. That's why fighting is absolutely stupid outside. And it doesn't even have to be that hard to hit someone and you could finish them off. Yeah. But at the same time, I think everyone should learn how to throw a punch, just in case you do get one of these arseholes that come and start and with you need to know how to defend yourself, because I would rather, me be the person, if I'm trying to walk away and they come on, land that punch, than the other way around. Yeah.
And there's also like a confidence in knowing how to do it properly without injuring yourself, a confidence in knowing how to defend yourself. Right. And having that confidence can allow us to maybe make the choice to walk away quicker, because we have the tools to know, like, okay, well, if it goes down, I can kind of handle myself.
Yeah. That's another huge thing about learning boxing or learning how to throw a punch is the confidence. Just give you that bounce in your step when you're walking around. You'll go into any bar, you'll go into any alley if but you'll it's just great to know that you've got that if you need it, but again, hopefully you never need it. But yeah, the confidence is huge for it. That's why boxing is one of, if not the biggest growing sports or fitness modalities in the world right now, because you see women doing boxing, men doing boxing, the elderly, the kids, because it does give you that confidence, and who doesn't want more confidence?
Right. And it's fun to hit a bag. You got to let some steam out sometimes.
Yeah, hitting the bag or hitting the mitts, it's great. And now I see boxing is amazing as long as you're not getting punched in the face. That's when it gets a bit,
That should be a t-shirt.
Yeah, it should, right? Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question. How would you define fear?
How would I define fear? I think fear comes in a lot of different ways, like fearful of getting in a street fight, fearful of not being able to provide for your family. Like right now, my fear and my insecurities is something happening with YouTube, and I'm not going to be able to have a career, which is always like an insecurity when we've got the gym, but when I was focused on the gyms, it was, what if it fails? What if the members don't come and I'm not going to be able to provide? In my life, that's where fear is. Now I want to reverse the question onto you. How do you define it?
Great question. The pandemic was probably a very fearful state, right? As a gym owner.
Oh yeah.
But I think what you were saying at the end is that inability to be able to provide for our families that we have now, right? As fathers and as providers. But to me, fear is, there's two things. Sometimes you say use fear as your compass. And I think there's a good, even though I tell people like choose love, fear is still a good thing. It's a protective measure. So I think there's a healthy amount of fear of like, okay, I'm feeling fear because I want to protect my family, protect myself, my well-being. But then there's acting out of fear. And I think the way I'm going to describe fear right now, that I'm most afraid of for the world, is that we are all being fed fear. The propaganda, the media, everything on TV is about fueling our fear. And all of a sudden we become more complacent, more accepting of becoming victims, more losing ourself and our self-confidence. So I believe when fear affects who you are as a human being to be lesser than a human, or your human capacity, that's what I'm afraid for, actually.
Yeah.
And because if we operate out of that, that's the space of racism and hate and prejudice and bigotry, because now we're not understanding ourselves. We're afraid of all this other stuff going on around us, so we're going to start lashing out of fear.
Right, yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And I think, like, I never ever watch the news or listen to the news. I watch a YouTuber guy called Phil DeFranco who talks about some new stuff. It's more like YouTubers and social media stuff. But yeah, it's all negativity. And if you consuming that negativity and that fear into your brain all the time, you're going to be a fearful person, and you're not going to live for love and live for life. You're going to be worried all the time about, well, this guy said this on the news, so what if this happens? And like, no, mate. So even through the full pandemic, I never watched the news at all, because, you know, whether you believe in all of that stuff or not, you know, I just kept away from it, and I did my thing. And my thing ended up being starting a YouTube channel, and then it kind of worked well, where there was so many people just worried and getting bogged down with the politics and all of that side of stuff. It's like, yeah, I kind of control that. I can control my feelings, control what I can do. The news is trying to put stuff in my mind, and yeah, so.
No, and I agree. I don't watch the news either. There's a big difference in being informed and consuming the news that they're putting out in the world.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a lack of not wanting to be informed, but we're choosing not to take that in. Why am I going to watch something that's going to make me angry?
Right.
Because I can't control it.
Yeah, yeah.
But use that and be like, what can I control? Well, I can control putting more love in the world the way I do it.
Yeah.
Whether people choose it or not, that's beyond me at that point.
Yeah.
But having these conversations and really talking about it.
Yeah, no, I think it's great what you're doing. You're really putting love in the world and spreading that message. And, you know, there might be 1,000 people see one of your paintings, and 999 of them might be like, that's shit. But that one person might need that. And that that might change the life of that one person. Yeah. And I'm sure that makes it all worthwhile for you when someone does see, that really did inspire us. That really did help. So thank you. No.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what it is. It's that one person. That one person could affect one other person and one other person and one other person. You know, if I'm like, I'm going to create world peace. No, but I'm like, I'm going to try to inspire a person that inspires another and another.
Yeah. And
it's like your YouTube channel. You put up I'm building out the YouTube as well, having these conversations. One subscriber watches, hey, then the next one, and eventually there's enough people watching it that you're like, hey, this.
Yeah. I've got a friend called BJ Goodall, he was a men's fitness director, and he's got a big following on social media. And I said to him before, like, mate, I've only grew like 10 followers this week. And he was like, that's 10 followers though. That's good. You know, I'll take it. Give me 10 followers, I'll take them 10 followers. And like, that really changed my perspective on, you know, growing a following and all that. But yeah, it's like what you said about the YouTube. Like right now, I get thousands of comments every single day. I can't read through them all, but I know 99.9% of them is positive, and it's what I'm doing is helping people, which makes it all worthwhile for me. Yeah.
So let's just transition a little bit into fatherhood. I'm a new father, so I love talking to other fathers and just seeing like how has that changed you, affected your life?
Yeah.
How you teach?
It's a full-time commitment, right? Like, you didn't realize before I had kids like how much your life would change with the kids. I've got three daughters,
Ooh.
age 8, 6 and 4. So it's going to get interesting when they get a little bit older. And I'm not going to have to see that red mist and do them street fights, what we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, being a father, it's great. It's got its amazing points, which is a lot of them. And then it's got its worries as well. When you talk about fear, that's one of the biggest fears in my life now, that something happens to my kids. They get lost or they get hurt. So that's kind of, if I'd have got a worry, it's about them. And then it also comes down to, am I raising the kids right? Am I spoiling me kids? I wasn't spoiled when I was a kid. I had to wait to get some new shoes for months. But they want some shoes, or I see some shoes, I'm like, I'm getting them. Like little things like that, it makes us think, is this going to affect them when they get older? And it's so easy to spoil your kids, and I'm trying not, you know, there's so much, and another thing, there's so much information out there on this as well, where I try to learn and think for myself, but it's tough. And your kid's 19 months old now, right? Yeah. Boy or girl?
He's a boy.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
It's amazing. No, all those conversations are right. I think with the spoiling, I haven't got there yet. I mean, he's 19 months. We get him whatever, but he doesn't know.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, when I do get him something, it's like, oh, I wanted to get him those little Jordans.
Yeah.
Because I want him to, like, match me and wear matching Jordans. It's not so much to spoil. I think I'm spoiling myself.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it's like, oh, they look great on these shoes. I'm the same with Jordans on these.
Yeah.
Let's get them this basketball jersey. And it's like, we'll be in a shop and they'll be like, I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, I'll get them this. But it's like, it is spoiling them. It's hard not to do it though, because now I've got like, got more money now, if you like, than my parents might have when I was a kid. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, I think the hardest part, I think, is like overcorrecting anything you felt you didn't have
right
when you were growing up, and then applying it over here. That might be the conversation after.
Yeah, but being a parent as well, my parents weren't perfect, and I'm trying to be the perfect parent and trying to do some things that my parents might not have done with me when I was young. Like I make a point of telling my kids every single day that I love them and kiss them and cuddle them all the time. I think that's important, you know. But as well, talking about raising kids, I've seen parents raise the kids now and think this is a great mother, great father, and then their kid turns out to be a little shit and getting into drugs and getting into with the wrong crowds. Yeah. So it's a very tough one. I don't know how right or wrong you can do with this. You've just got to do the best you can do.
That's it. All we can do is the best we can. We don't come with instructions.
Yeah.
And if you know you did your best, they're ultimately their own human, right? We're here to guide them to the point that they don't need us to keep them alive.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Until they know how to feed themselves, live on their own and all that.
Yeah, I just believe, teach them to be nice, kind people and show them a lot of love and know that they're all loved. And I think that's the best that we can do.
Mm-hmm. So any plans to get your girls into boxing?
Not boxing. I would never let them get punched in the head. Like I mentioned, I had 106 fights in my career, and I did the maths. And if I sparred 10 times for each one of them fights, each sparring session was 6 rounds long. Each sparring session was 6 rounds long. Each one of them rounds, I got punched in the head 7 times. For my 106 fights, I've been punched in the head around 40 to 50,000 times.
Wow.
Now that's a lot of punches, and that's obviously affected me. I would have been sharper. I'll probably be able to speak better if I never had them punched in the head. Now, I was fortunate enough where boxing has given me the life I've got now, which is amazing. But there's been boxers out there that's been way more successful than me, won way more titles, that is working on building sites now, unhappy with their life, drinking every night. And, so anyway, back to the kids question, I wouldn't let them do that because of the damage that it does to your brain. Jiu-jitsu, on the other hand, is a sport where I think every parent should get their kids into jiu-jitsu. It's an amazing sport. It's amazing self-defense, and it gives you that confidence that you need in everyday life, and you're not getting punched in the head. So my advice to you is get your boy into jiu-jitsu when he's old enough, and any other parent out there. I've just started doing it this year, and I think it's a life changer.
Amazing. That's a good thought.
Would you let your boy box?
I've never done it in the capacity of you, so I don't know. Here's the thing, like, people are like, what if he's not an artist like you? Well, what if? Like, or what if he's this? Or what if, and like, he's going to be whatever he's going to be.
Yeah.
Would it be high on my list? No, I'd be at the bottom of my list. Will I not encourage him? I might say, try this or try this or try this. Like, I played football. I came out pretty much injury free. Will I keep him from football? No.
Right.
May I encourage soccer a little bit more? I think the global reach of soccer and the growing power of it, and in America, it's not as saturated or competitive as some other sports, so maybe I would encourage that.
Yeah. With boxing, I would definitely recommend you learn and teach him how to throw punches and do all that. It's just when it comes to the sparring and getting punched in the head, it's not good. I've seen lots of videos, and I've shared videos on my Instagram with kids sparring when they're 6 years old and they're really going for it and blasting each other in the head. And I'm thinking, this is a kid's brain that's developing, it's undeveloped, and it's getting shook about the skull the way it shouldn't be shook about the skull. It's not good for them. Some people think it's fine, which I totally don't agree with. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone getting their kids into the fighting sport of boxing, but definitely learn it. Like I said, everyone should learn to punch. Kids, my kids all know how to throw their hands, which is good for the confidence.
Yeah, definitely as self-defense.
Yes, self-defense, a way of keeping fit, a way of having fun, and it's really good for your brain as well, boxing, again, if you're not getting punched in the face. There's been so many studies out there for people who's got Parkinson's disease, why boxing is so good for them, and there's companies that train people with Parkinson's. And at our gym in Box and Burn, we rent space out to a group of people with Parkinson's that come in and they do boxing. And I speak to these people and they're telling me, when they're coming in, they've got lots of tremors and they're shaking, but after their boxing session, they've got no tremors and they feel great. And it's like really, it's a real game changer for them. So that just shows you right there how good it is for the brain, working them, helping with your motor skills and all of that.
Hand-eye coordination, reaction time.
Yeah, hand-eye coordination, foot coordination, and yeah, everything. It's such a good sport, as long as you're not getting punched in the face.
Yeah, no, I've done it a lot for fitness, and I've actually met most of the coaches over there, Kez, Kenny. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to come in. I'm going to come try it out. I just need to find this. Because CrossFit's always been my thing, so like I do that every morning.
Right.
And I want to figure out how to fit this in. So let's just say a guy like me run through a scenario who does CrossFit style strength training 5-6 days out of the week. Where would I fit in boxing as fitness? Like, I wouldn't go replace 5 days with 5 days. Would that be once or twice a week?
Well, yeah, I would say plug it in twice a week, or go once and see if you enjoy it. Because I think one of the biggest things for me with training is if you enjoy it, you'll want to do it again. And boxing can be a very enjoyable workout. So I would go once a week, twice a week. I see the sweet spot for boxing to see real good results is 3 times a week. But you wouldn't want to replace your CrossFit, because I'm guessing you love it, 3 times a week. But
I could do 2 days.
I mean, yeah, you look like a beast. So yeah, do 2 days, mate.
So for women, it's always that conversation of like, my wife, hey, do CrossFit. I don't want to get bulky. Or go lift some weights. Other women like, I don't want to get big. I don't want to look like a man. What about the conversation for women or men that like, I don't want to hit things. I'm not violent.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get them into come try out boxing?
Well, yeah, again, it's not about violence. It's about having a fun workout where you're not only getting fitter, getting stronger, getting your body in great shape, but you're also learning a new skill as well. And I mean, who doesn't want to learn a new skill? So you're kind of killing a few birds with one stone right there, because the benefits of boxing is huge. And we talk about confidence. It just gives you that confidence, that edge in your step. And that's why boxing, I think it's overtook CrossFit now. CrossFit used to be the biggest sport, trend in the fitness industry 5-10 years ago, what is it? And now I think boxing's taken over that, because when people do it, they enjoy it, they see the results, and they love it. So I would recommend everyone just go in there to a boxing fitness gym, because a boxing fitness gym is completely different to a boxing fighting gym.
Yeah.
Go to a boxing fitness gym and try a class, and I'm sure they'll love it.
Yeah, because remember in my early 20s, like Taibo was huge.
Yeah.
I was obsessed. I did 4 or 5 classes after my strength training.
Really?
I just loved it. So I'm just kicking air, whatever, but I just loved it. So,
Yeah.
so I know I have the passion for it. I just want to make some time for it. But my thought is in 2023, this coming year, I want to make some goals where I do things that I'm uncomfortable in. And the sense is like, I'm comfortable with my strength training, but like maybe I'm not comfortable changing that to go incorporate 2 days of boxing or a day of yoga or even salsa classes, right? Like,
Right.
oh, let me go dedicate a night to salsa just to try to get better at it, even though I know in my head I'm like, oh, I feel weird dancing, you know? So,
Yeah, I think these uncomfortable situations will help develop you as a human being, and trying to get comfortable being uncomfortable is a great thing. Like I started jiu-jitsu in March, which was like 6-7 months ago, and being a former boxer at a high level, who's like good, and at the gyms we do shoulder body sparring, I beat everyone up. Then going into a class where I've got a guy who's 50-pound lighter than us, absolutely tying me nuts. It's very humbling, and now I'm comfortable being uncomfortable in them situations and learning a new skill. It's tough for us to do, but I know how much it's developed me as a human being, and it's great to try new things.
No, it's definitely humbling. I've been in as a white belt. I haven't gotten past white belt, but they're like, go spar with the blue belt. Physically, strength and cardio wise, I can outlast them, but the skill wise, no chance. And then you go, okay, you did pretty well with them. They move you up, go spar with this brown belt, no chance. Like it's the level of, and it's just finesse. And we're talking about some of these guys don't look like they're athletes.
Yeah.
But they'll just like boop boop, and you're tapping out in seconds. It's incredible.
I went in one of my first times, and I'm pretty strong, and I'm 6'1", and I was weighing like 190 pounds. And there was a kid there. He was like 17 years old, and he was a blue belt, and he was about 150 pounds. And I was like, yeah, I want to show the blue belt, And he just tied me a knot, and within like 20 seconds, I'm tapping like, getting choked. It's like, wow. So it makes me appreciate the sport much more. Where in boxing, I guess you could do the same in boxing if you were head punching with someone more experienced than you. But jiu-jitsu kind of blew me away.
I think the one biggest lesson I've learned from jiu-jitsu, it teaches you when to surrender. And I think knowing when to surrender in life is such a powerful tool.
Yeah. When I guess give up, and when to say, yeah, enough's enough, and let your ego go, because that's a big thing as well. Having an ego, I'm not going to tap. You can't breathe. You've got to tap, and learning that. I think that helps you in life as well.
But it's not giving up. Surrendering is a conscious choice. Giving up to me sounds more like quitting.
No, you're right, because you're not quitting because you're going to do it straight again. Get in. Quitting would be where it's like, I'm tapping, I'm done. This is not for me. This little guy shouldn't be beating me up. That's quitting. But surrendering to go again, yeah, you're right.
It's surrendering to your ego and all those things.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to ask you another question. I want to see, how would you define love? What is love?
When I think of love, I think of how I feel with me wife and me family, and it's. I think it's a very, very powerful thing. Even though I love what I do in my job, helping people and all that, when I think of the word love, I think of it like, just how much my wife means to me, and how much my kids mean to me. That's how I would, probably describe it. And it's something that I've never been asked before. I've never really thought about it on this level before. I haven't got anything fancy to say about it. It's just like, it's a feeling. It's a feeling, what I feel with my wife and kids and my family. How would you But I bet you can go all day on this, right?
Man, it depends on the situation. I'm going to pause you. We'll come back to that. But I want to do a follow-up. How would you define self-love?
Well, loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's something I've never thought about. I've never been asked before. Is like, I haven't got an answer. Come on, give me something better. You telling me, what should I be saying?
No, so I'm saying, so you're defining love by saying it's how I feel about my wife and my family. I would say that piece of that should also be how you would define self-love of yourself.
Yeah, I guess I don't feel like I self-love myself. Even though I kind of love what I do, but no, I haven't got any. I've never thought about, do I love myself before? If the term love yourself, where I'm from, it means you're an arsehole. Like if someone's like, oh, I loves himself.
Arrogance or conceited, yeah. Mm-hmm.
If he was chocolate, he would eat himself, you know, we say that. But yeah, as for me, loving myself, I haven't got anything on that. Tell me what...
Well, it is context. Because it could be, I'm so handsome, I'm so this, I love myself. Yeah, I get that. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, like, when I talk about self-love, you love yourself so much to go train boxing to be fitter, and then you love your family for you to be healthier so you can live long and fruitful to be around for them for a very long time. So like that's how I'm starting to kind of unpack it. Or I love myself in the sense that I'm going to say no to you in this conversation because it doesn't feel right for me. And that's me choosing myself and self-love.
Right. Yeah.
So those are examples of like self-love and love.
Yeah. The thing, what I can think of now with this, it's kind of being selfish, where if you're a fighter, you've got to be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that might be self-love, because you can't, I'm not going to this party, I'm not going to my school prom because I'm focused on fighting, and that's where I want to be. That's where I want to put my energy. So it's like saying no to things for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I call that selfish rather than self-love. I think self-love is more of a arrogant term from where I'm from, even though I know it's not what you're saying. You know what I mean?
No, that's fair. I mean, obviously where we come from, cultural differences, all that, words mean different things in different places. But there is an element of selfishness to self-love, of course. You know, and there is sacrifice too, but I don't believe love is sacrificial.
Right.
I don't believe we need to sacrifice our self-love, our health, our dignity, our humanity, our life to show that we love somebody.
Right. With the self-love, I guess what I've done in the end of 2019, I stopped drinking alcohol because I knew that it was bad for me, bad for my brain. So I went cold turkey on that, and I've not drank since. I'll never drink again in my life because I knew that wasn't bringing me any goodness in my life. So doing that for myself, I guess that's self-love, right?
Exactly.
That's an example right there. Then starting jiu-jitsu because I knew it was good for my brain and I needed to get healthy. I eat organic foods and take care of myself that way. I just didn't think of it as self-love. I just thought of it as doing it because it makes me better for my family. But what you're saying, that is self-love, right?
Yeah, those are acts of self-love. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So how do you define love?
In every context. So what I say love is a choice, and it's a verb, and it's an active way of life. We have to choose it. And the way I define it, I always preface it like, we're not talking Valentine's Day and rom-coms and gummy bears. We're talking about, like, I'm choosing to get up every morning and work out to love myself because I love my family so much. I want to make sure I'm healthy as possible. Whatever I can control is the outcome to give forward. How you show up in life, or saying I'm sorry, or saying I'm not right? Although I like to say I'm right all the time, which is something I'm working on myself. But so to me, love is you're choosing to be a good person. You're choosing to use love as your guide. You're choosing to look at it through the harder lens, right? It's so much easier if you say, hey, Ruben, blah, 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 and you insult me. And I could be like, what? Like, that's the easy way.
Right.
The hard way is like, wait a minute. Like, well, where's that coming from? Like, let me understand you. did I offend you somehow?
Right.
What did I do for you to respond that way? Like that takes much more.
Yeah.
So that's coming from the side of love.
Yeah.
So I look at it as a power that we can tap into, and it's how humans are supposed to be.
Right.
We're supposed to come from love. When we come from love, everything's easier. The problem is we're so clouded and go the other way because it's a quicker dopamine hit to like, rah, or like, you know, whatever the case, you know?
Yeah, and it's kind of what I've heard Gary Vee say about people who leave negative comments on posts where it's like they've got a problem. They need to love. There's one word that I've took out of my vocabulary for the last 4 years, and I'll say it now, and it's hate. I don't ever use that word, and in my house, that's one rule that we're not allowed to use that word because it's a very negative word, and there's not much in this world that I really do hate. I'll use it again. So it's like, let's get rid of that word. We don't need to use that word. So I guess that's self-love as well, by getting rid of something like that out of your life where you might used to see it often before, but never again.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the terms that we've used growing up that we shouldn't be and can't use nowadays because it's not PC or correct. Yeah. But hate is correct, right? We look at kids growing up, they don't know color.
Right.
They don't know gender. They don't know anything. It's, oh, little guy, I'm a little guy, let's play. Like they know that they're the same size and us big people are bigger than them.
Yeah.
And they go and have a good time. Somehow, over time, they learn hate.
Right.
And prejudice.
Yeah.
And gender differences and this and that. And somewhere within that, they're taught love or they're taught fear. And then it starts funneling out of all of that. Yeah. So, yeah, it's great to not use that word hate or very intentional not use ways of thinking because then your girls are going to grow up not thinking that way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're trying to do, bring them up in a world of love rather than the other stuff. Although it's unrealistic to think that they're going to grow up and it's all going to be roses and everything's going to be happy, because there is sad times as well. But we've got to try and teach them when they are sad, how can they get out of that.
I mean, the world is going to punch you in the head.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be another boxer in the ring, but it's going to happen. And how do we build back from that? How are we resilient from that?
Yeah.
So I think practicing boxing and fitness, all these things that we do help us just really choose love more often than not.
Yeah. And it does. It made me think there about, like, last night, one of my daughters were doing jiu-jitsu and she didn't want to tap. She doesn't want to lose. And I'm telling her it's okay to lose. And then you get really upset, and it's like, listen, it's okay. It's okay. You're going to learn, and things like that help them learn and help them develop as people, I think. Because like you said, life will punch you in the face, and this is part of it.
And how do we build the resilience to keep going?
Yeah, exactly.
So Tony, final question. How do you define living a life through love?
Bloody hell, mate. Give us the easier one. Living a life through love. I just being the best version of myself I can be. And I'm sure there is people who's got bad things to say about me who don't really know us. But, like, for the most part, everyone who I meet seems to like us and have a good relationship because I put positive energy out. I'm not trying to suck energy from anyone. I don't badmouth anyone, and I think people who badmouth people, talk behind the backs, that's the opposite of what you're saying. So just being a nice person, that's how I'll live my life, through love, and treating you the same as I would treat the homeless man who's outside. Yeah. Treating just about everyone the same. And you've heard the phrase, treat people how you would like to be treated. And I try, obviously you can't do that all the time, but I try to do that as much as I can.
As often as possible.
Yeah.
And that one thing you said earlier is, like, I think in cancel culture and looking back and this and that, we forget that people grow and evolve. And who we were 20 years ago is not who we are now. Well, hopefully we're better people. Yeah. Maybe we're worse people. But sometimes people are amazing and they're like, they said this 20 years ago. Yeah. That was 20 years ago. Why don't you say, wow, look how much they've evolved and grown since then? Yeah. Right? Like, I'm a huge Kobe fan, and I've painted his murals, and I've done artwork after him. And negative comments you get on social media. I still get negative comments of a scandal that happened. And I'm like,
yeah.
why? Why is that important? How about look at what he did after the fact?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. We had a big mural in our gym of Kobe wearing Muhammad Ali's kit. And yeah, we got complaints where it was like, if you don't take that down, we're not going to come and work out at the gym anymore. So I was like, but you know, yeah, how has he evolved? And people do change. Like you mentioned earlier on, we'd say things 10 years ago. I said stuff myself 10 years ago that I wouldn't dream about saying right now. And it's the way I was brought up. But I've changed, and people do change. People do evolve.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got to take that into consideration as well.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you for having us on. It's been great. Been great spreading the message of love.
Yeah.
It made me think about love as well, because I've never thought about these questions. And when I get home, the first thing I'm going to say to my wife is, define love to me. Tell me what it is.
I was going to ask you. You should go ask her, and I would love to hear what your daughters say on how they define it.
Yeah. And yeah, they tell us that they love us every day. We tell them, and so they'll probably just say, when I think about love, they'll probably say, I think of my family. But yeah, I'll ask them and see.
Yeah. So where can everybody find you?
Just searching how to box on Google, and I'll be the one that comes up.
Really? Number one for how to box?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Who's doing your SEO?
If you want to learn how to box, yeah, just type in Google and you'll find me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Live Through Love. If you love this episode, you'll love this episode.